If you've ever walked into your bathroom right after cleaning it and still caught a whiff of something off, something you couldn't quite explain, you are not alone. I hear this from homeowners all the time. They scrub the bowl, they wipe down the seat, they spray something that smells like a pine forest, and 20 minutes later, that same musty odor creeps right back in.
Most folks assume they just didn't clean hard enough, so they scrub even harder next time. But here's the truth I've learned after decades.
Crawling under sinks and pulling apart toilets in homes just like yours.
The smell almost never comes from where people think it does. And once you understand where it's actually coming from, you'll never look at your toilet the same way again. My name is Mike Anderson. I'm a third-generation plumber, and I've spent the last 4 to 5 years repairing, inspecting, and maintaining
residential plumbing systems in homes all across this country.
I started working alongside my father when I was still in high school, carrying his toolbox before I was even allowed to touch a wrench, and I've been at it ever since.
In that time, I've probably walked into more bathrooms than I can count, and I've seen just about every version of this odor problem there is.
Here's something that might surprise you. Most plumbing headaches aren't caused by some big, expensive failure.
They're caused by small, quiet things that build up slowly, week after week, without anyone noticing.
This toilet odor issue is a perfect example. Homeowners spend money on bleach tablets, fancy sprays, scented gels, sometimes even calling a
cleaning service when the actual fix costs next to nothing and takes about 15 minutes.
Today I want to walk you through exactly what I check when a customer calls me about a toilet that smells even after cleaning, using the same approach
I use in my own home and recommend to my family and neighbors. So, let's talk about why this happens in the first place. A toilet bowl is porcelain, and porcelain is smooth, which is exactly why most people assume it can't hold on to odor. But the smell isn't coming from the smooth part you can see. It's coming from the parts you can't see and rarely think to clean. Underneath that ring, there's a ring of small holes, sometimes called the rim jets, that release water every time you flush. Those holes are dark, they stay damp almost constantly, and they don't get any direct sunlight or airflow. That combination, moisture plus darkness plus warmth, is exactly the environment that bacteria and mineral deposits love. Over time, a thin layer builds up inside those holes and along the underside of the rim, and that layer traps odor the same way an old damp sponge does, even after you've rinsed it under the faucet. You can scrub the visible bowl until it shines, and that hidden ring keeps producing smell because you never actually touched it. Now, homeowners make a handful of mistakes here, and I want to be clear, these aren't careless mistakes. These are things almost everyone does because nobody ever explained the reasoning behind them. The first mistake is only cleaning what you can see. Most people grip a toilet brush, swirl it around the inside of the bowl, maybe give a quick pass under the rim if the brush happens to reach, and call it done. The problem is that a standard brush usually can't get up into those rim jets at all, so that area goes untouched, cleaning after cleaning. The second mistake is relying on scented products to mask the smell instead of removing what's actually causing it. A pine-scented spray might cover the odor for an hour, but it does nothing to the bacteria and buildup hiding under that rim. It's a bit like spraying perfume on a gym bag instead of washing it. The third mistake, and this one surprises people, is flushing with the lid down every time, thinking it keeps things cleaner. In reality, that traps humidity inside the bowl and around the rim area, which can actually make buildup form faster in some cases, especially in bathrooms that already run a little humid. None of these are huge blunders, they're just habits nobody ever had a reason to question. Let's talk about the science for a minute, because understanding why something works makes you so much better at doing it right. The buildup under that rim is usually a combination of two things: mineral deposits from hard water and a thin biofilm, which is just a fancy term for a layer of bacteria that clings to a damp surface. Hard water contains dissolved minerals like calcium and magnesium, and every time your toilet flushes, a little bit of that mineral content gets left behind in those hidden crevices. Over weeks and months, it hardens into a rough, porous texture, almost like a light coating of sandpaper. That rough texture becomes the perfect anchor point for bacteria to grip onto, and bacteria produce the sulfur-like, musty smell you're noticing. White vinegar works so well here because its mild acid content slowly breaks down those mineral deposits, softening that rough coating so it can be scrubbed loose instead of sitting there hardened. Baking soda plays a different role. It's mildly alkaline, and it actually neutralizes acidic odor compounds rather than just covering them up, which is why it works so well for smell specifically, rather than for stains. When you understand that these two problems, mineral buildup and bacteria, need two different approaches, it makes a lot more sense why a single all-purpose spray often falls short. Now, here's something almost nobody tells you, and it took me years of doing this work before I put it together myself. The smell is often worst first thing in the morning or after the house has been quiet for several hours, and there's a real reason for that. When water sits still in the bowls overnight without any flushing or air movement, it gives bacteria time to multiply undisturbed, and it also lets any trapped gas concentrate in that closed space instead of dispersing. That's why a bathroom can seem perfectly fine in the afternoon, but hit you with an odor the moment you walk in first thing in the morning. It's not that the smell suddenly appeared, it's that it had all night to build up with nothing disturbing it. Once you know that, it makes sense why simply cleaning more often doesn't fully solve it if you're never actually reaching the source underneath that rim. So let's get into the real solution, the same approach I use myself and walk my customers through. The good news is you don't need anything expensive. You need white vinegar, baking soda, an old toothbrush or a small flexible cleaning brush designed to reach under rims, rubber gloves, and about 15 minutes of your time. Start by turning off the water supply valve at the base of the toilet, then flush to drain as much water out of the tank and bowl as you comfortably can so you're not working in a full bowl of water the whole time. Put your gloves on before you go any further since you'll be reaching into an area that holds bacteria buildup, and it's just good practice to protect your skin. Take about 2 cups of white vinegar and pour it directly around the rim, tilting the bottle so it runs down into those small jet holes rather than just splashing into the bowl. Let that vinegar sit for a full 15 minutes. I know that feels like a long time when you just want to get the job done, but that waiting period is what actually gives the acid time to soften the mineral buildup. If you rinse it away after only a minute or two, you're wasting most of the benefit. While that's sitting, sprinkle about half a cup of baking soda around the bowl and rim as well. You'll notice a light fizzing reaction where the vinegar and baking soda meet, and that's completely normal. That reaction helps physically loosen debris from the surface, sort of like a gentle scrubbing action happening on a microscopic level. After your 15 minutes are up, take your small brush, the kind with a narrow or angled head, and work it directly into those rim holes, moving it back and forth in short strokes. You'll likely feel a bit of resistance or grit the first time you do this, especially if it's never been cleaned this way before, and that grit is exactly the buildup we've been talking about. Move around the entire rim and don't rush this part. In many cases, this single pass takes care of years of accumulated buildup that regular cleaning never touched. Once you've worked the entire rim, turn your water supply back on, let the tank refill, and flush a few times to rinse everything through. Take a moment afterward, wait about 10 or 15 minutes, and then walk back in and see how the bathroom smells. In most cases, homeowners tell me the difference is noticeable almost immediately, especially compared to how the room smelled first thing that same morning. I want to share something that happened with a customer of mine a while back because it really illustrates this whole point. She called me convinced she needed a brand new toilet installed. She'd tried every spray on the market, cleaned the bowl daily, and was at her wit's end. When I got there and looked underneath that rim with a small mirror and flashlight, the buildup was thick enough that you could see it without even looking closely. We spent about 20 minutes doing exactly what I just walked you through, and by the time we flushed it clean, she was almost embarrassed at how simple the fix turned out to be. I told her the same thing I'll tell you. This isn't a sign you did anything wrong. It's just an area that most cleaning routines never account for, because nobody ever explains why it matters. Let me give you a few professional tips I've picked up over the years that make this process even more effective. First, if your water happens to be particularly hard, and you can usually tell because you see white, chalky deposits around faucets or shower heads, consider doing this rim cleaning every 4 to 6 weeks instead of just occasionally. Hard water speeds up mineral buildup significantly, so homes with harder water need this attention more often. Second, after your vinegar and baking soda treatment, leave the toilet lid up for a while afterward rather than closing it right away. Airflow helps keep humidity from settling back into those rim holes immediately, which slows down how quickly new buildup can start forming. Third, If you're dealing with a particularly stubborn ring or heavy buildup, a small amount of hydrogen peroxide poured around the rim before your vinegar treatment can help break down some of the tougher deposits, since it works a bit differently on organic staining than vinegar alone does. And fourth, dish soap is actually a wonderful addition for the bowl itself, not just the rim, because it breaks down the oils and body products that end up in that water and contribute to buildup on the bowl's surface over time. Now let's talk about mistakes to avoid, because I've seen a few well-meaning homeowners run into trouble here. Never, under any circumstances, mix bleach with vinegar or with ammonia-based cleaners. That combination creates fumes that can genuinely be dangerous to breathe in an enclosed bathroom. So if you've used a bleach-based product recently, make sure the bowl has been thoroughly rinsed before you introduce vinegar. Also avoid using anything abrasive, like steel wool or heavy-duty scouring pads, directly on porcelain, since it can create tiny scratches that actually give bacteria and build up even more surface area to cling to going forward. And don't skip the waiting period for the vinegar. I know it's tempting to rush through, especially if you're doing this before guests arrive or before running out the door, but that soak time is doing most of the real work. On the safety side, a few quick reminders that matter. Always wear gloves when reaching into this area, since you're dealing with bacteria buildup that you don't want directly on your skin. If your bathroom doesn't have great ventilation, crack a window or turn on the exhaust fan while you work, especially since you're using vinegar, which has a strong smell of its own during application. Keep any cleaning products, including something as simple as vinegar and baking soda, up out of reach of small children and pets while you're working. And always read the label on any commercial product you use alongside this method, just to be sure it's compatible with what else is in your cleaning routine that day. For ongoing maintenance, here's what I'd suggest. Do this deeper rim cleaning about once a month for most households, or every few weeks if you know you have hard water. In between those deeper cleanings, a quick daily or every other day wipe of the visible bowl with your regular cleaner is still worthwhile. It just won't replace this rim treatment. You'll usually notice that once you get into this monthly rhythm, the buildup underneath never gets a chance to become as thick as it might have been the first time you tackled it, which means each future cleaning actually gets easier and faster, not harder. So, here's the recap. If your toilet still smells even after a good cleaning, the problem is very likely hiding in the rim jets underneath the bowl's edge, not on the visible surface you've been scrubbing all along. That area collects mineral deposits from hard water along with a thin layer of bacteria, and together they produce that musty odor that no amount of scented spray will fully solve. The fix is straightforward. Shut off the water, drain the bowl, apply vinegar around the rim and let it sit a full 15 minutes. Add baking soda for that gentle loosening reaction, then work a small brush directly into those rim holes before rinsing everything through with a few flushes. Depending on how much buildup has accumulated, you may need to repeat this once more the following week, but in most cases, one thorough pass makes a noticeable difference right away. After 45 years doing this work, I've learned that the simplest maintenance done consistently and done in the right place prevents far more headaches than any expensive product or replacement ever will. If you found today's tips helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to subscribe. Every week, I share practical home maintenance advice built from decades of hands-on experience, the kind of things that can save you money and help you avoid bigger repairs down the road. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.